most of the influencers that we're looking at or the thought leaders that we're looking at are going to position them. They do want to make time for you. They don't have a lot of time for you necessarily, but they do want to make time for you. So make it easy for them. Don't make it super hard. Position yourself first. Extend the olive branch first. Figure out a way to engage in the conversation and know what they're about before, they come to you. And that's that, I hope that story was an articulate way to explain, it's simple. You figure out what it is that they need and how you can connect with them and meet them at their level and connect with them at that point.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing. And you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's great to be back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I'm really excited today to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest, Erica Castner, the Queen of Results, a business growth coach and an iHeartRadio host. Erica offers workshops and coaching that's designed to help business professionals influence a group of their ideal clients and ultimately enhance productivity, enhance their presence, and enhance their partnerships. Erica and I had a lot of fun discussing reaching your ideal client and amplifying your reach by partnering with others who also connect with your ideal client. We talked about crafting a value message from the 3 major pain points of your ideal client, and we talked about some clever productivity frameworks that Erica shared with us. Without further ado then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Erica Castner. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited today to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast from Fort Myers in Florida in the USA, Erica Castner, who's also known as the Queen of Results. Now, Erica is a business growth coach and she's an iHeartRadio host. Erica offers workshops and coachings that's designed to help business professionals influence a group of their ideal clients and ultimately enhance their productivity, their presence and their partnerships. Welcome to the podcast, Erica. It's a privilege to have you as a guest.
Well, thank you, Jürgen, for having me. I'm excited about our chat today.
Me too. Now, you've got many years of experience in helping business owners and service providers improving their communication skills, and your focus is on finding, connecting and converting their ideal clients, which is something that's really close to my heart. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that a bit more with you today. Now, before we start...
Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry. I get so excited. I'm jumping in.
I was saying before we start talking about all things communication and business, let's find out a little bit more about you as a person and your background. So when you were a young child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh, my goodness. When I was a young child, I actually had aspirations of, number one, being a teacher. So kind of in a lot of ways today, I get to do that and play that out, just not in the traditional educational system. And I also wanted to sing, too. I was actually, one of the things that I remember doing as early as even 3 years old was I came from a big family. And so there was not a lot of... we had an interesting background, and so we literally had to be imaginative. With a big family, there wasn't a lot of money to go around to do the extra things, if you know what I mean, like the extracurricular stuff. So I was often entertaining myself and entertaining my brothers and sisters. So I would literally take construction paper and make fake stages, and sing. And so that was kind of my, that was kind of a foretelling incident, I guess, if you will, that I was always either educating or entertaining in some way, shape, or form. So that's what I wanted to do when I was a little kid.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fascinating. Building your own stage. It's very, very innovative. Yeah. And so where did the path lead you? Did you pursue teaching at all? I mean, in a traditional sense?
No, not in a traditional sense. I actually pursued singing more so than I did teaching for many years. I was always in some form of choir ensemble or auditioning for different solo acts. I mean, I wasn't the most successful at that. Let's just put it that way. But I gave it my all, and I did what I could to push myself and position myself in front of opportunities to help me. And that was probably one of the things that really got me involved with things like the Miss America organization, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, because that was a platform for me to get out there, earn some scholarship for college, because at that point I was still thinking about teaching. I wasn't really for sure if that was what I was going to ultimately land myself on. But between teaching and empowering people, and obviously entertaining them in some way, shape, or form, I knew that I couldn't just educate them in a traditional sense. I knew I had to add some special flair to it. So, that was something that I pursued, and I wandered quite a bit through that path, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the depths of that path as we chat today. But that's where it all kind of started.
Okay, that's fascinating. So what do you do today and why?
Well, today I actually help service providers and business owners get clarity on who not only is their target market and their ideal audience, but identifying those strategic partners that are going to help them align with those clients. And one of the things that really got me excited and really passionate about what I do today was about 2005, I was actually moving from the Midwest. I lived in Illinois most of my life, and I all of a sudden found myself in a situation where I was uprooting everything from Illinois to move with my husband at the time down to Florida. And I thought, if I'm moving locations, I'm going to switch up my career. And at that point, Jürgen, I was probably already 12 years into my corporate retail climb. That was my career path at the time. I was teaching and training and educating team members within large organizations like Victoria's Secret, Lancome Cosmetics, Dillard's, department stores, and helping their sales teams connect with their clients. And when I moved to the Southwest Florida market back in 2005, I was burnt out. I really didn't want to necessarily, I still wanted to be in front of people. I still felt that drive and that passion to get out there and help professionals. I wasn't for sure how that was going to look. And then when I was actually, like I said, I moved to the Southwest Florida area, landed a few opportunities here and there in the service-based world. And it wasn't until 2011 when I landed my gig at one of the larger regional Chamber of Commerce Chamber of Commerce organizations within the Southwest Florida market that I really became fascinated with helping business owners connect with the right resources that were going to ultimately help them grow. And it was this idea that we would have members coming into our organization wanting to grow, wanting to position themselves in front of their target audience. And it was my job to really help them figure out how they were going to do that within our membership and then beyond. So when I launched my own company in 2015, really just taking what I learned all of those years in training people and really digging deep, asking questions, identifying what people need, just taking that on a bigger scale and doing that on a national and now international basis as well.
Okay, that's fascinating that, there's a Chamber of Commerce that actually looks at how they can add value to their members by connecting them with their ideal client and then connecting them with people who can help them find their ideal client. And as I said to you in the preamble before we started recording, I do a lot of work with my clients on identifying their ideal client and then from there building on to how they market to them and so on. So it's definitely a topic close to my heart. Now, tell us a little bit then about the process you go through, because I'm fascinated by, there's two steps to what you've told me, which is finding your ideal client, identifying who they are, getting to know them, but then finding out who can help you connect with them so that you don't have to do everything yourself from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I a lot of times, there are people that will, most of us in the service-based world, right? And we have, you and I, Jürgen, are both business owners. We're doing innovative things to stand out and to position ourselves out in the field. I'm going to pretend for a moment that if somebody's coming into my world to want to work with me or to approach, an idea to maybe glean a best practice or two from some of the content that I produce out there, that they already know their ideal client, but they're struggling with time. They're not necessarily in a position to do all the marketing, do all the admin, do all the service deliverables, wear all the hats, right? And so one of the things that I really hone in on, especially those business owners who happen to be business owners, is saying, okay, how is it, like if we could take one aspect of your marketing and double down on understanding who is already marketing to that client. So I give an example because it's a real easy one for me to go with, and it's real easy for people to get this example. But like an insurance agent, right? An insurance agent is going to want to know, especially if they insure homes and cars, they're going to want to know a realtor. They're going to want to know a CPA, an accountant. They're going to want to know perhaps an attorney. They're going to want to know people that are most likely already marketing or talking to their ideal clients. And so if we can get out of this mindset of saying, hey, I got to go as a business owner / service provider, I got to do the marketing, do the service deliverables, do all the admin stuff. If we can just say, you know what, why don't I spend my marketing time, my quote unquote marketing time, getting to know and building a relationship with the people that are likely to refer me business, it's going to save them a lot of time in the hustle of trying to track down their ideal clients. So that's one of the, we can certainly dive deeper into that process, but that's the high level view of how that looks.
Yeah, that's really good because it gets you quite a bit of leverage. And I guess I'd like to explore that a little bit further, but I'd like to spin back a little bit to the ideal client thing, because I'm not convinced that people really focus enough on understanding their ideal client. I mean, yes, the insurance person might say, well, it's homeowners or it's car owners as their ideal client, but then what I often do is say, well, let's get to know them and let's focus on the particular niche that you serve best and who you work best with. And the second part of that is, I consider the partners like the realtors and the car people as ideal clients in a way, because they're going to deliver business.
Yeah, so I guess if I'm understanding your question right, so yeah, there are some gaps in where people think, and again, this is where I initially want to assume that people already have that figured out, right? So if a professional's coming to me and they're saying, hey, Erica, I want to work with you, on some level, I'm going to assume they have the ideal client thing figured out, right? But like I know that there's always a way to drill that down. There's always a way to say, okay, you might have a demographic you serve or a particular niche you serve, but is there a way that we could slice this even smaller so that you're focusing your time on the things, and let me give you another example to maybe hone this into your point. So like, if right now a service provider is working with, and I'm just going to use a nice round number just for the sake of using a round number to make this easy for everybody. Let's just say as a service provider, you want to serve 100 clients, and on an annual basis, maybe they spend $1,000 with you. That might be low for somebody that's listening to this. That might be high. This is just a flat, example. So, thinking, okay, that's $100,000 a year and of what people are going to be driving the revenue to that organization. If we now said to that same service provider, hey, look, wouldn't it be great if we could focus on finding that client that's going to spend $5,000 with you, or, instead of that $1,000 a year. If we could get really clear on who they are, what they look like, what type of service would you have to provide in order for you to warrant a $5,000 spend out of that person on an annual basis? Like, what does that start looking like now? And when we start thinking about, okay, even if we only did the $100,000 in revenue, that's 20 clients that you're serving. So it's giving you a it's giving the business owner, I think, an outlook that, it's talking numbers, because let's face it, you probably know this from your line of work, Jürgen, that a lot of your clients aren't necessarily looking at their numbers as closely as they should be because, they're caught up in the marketing or they're caught up in the deliverables or they're caught up in something else that isn't necessarily a numbers suit. So that's another approach of taking a look at what do you want your client to look like? And what do you want them to spend with you? Like, what does that actually look like for you and your business and your bottom line?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's definitely something that helps to, turn it around. Understanding the ideal client really deeply definitely helps to identify those opportunities. And one of the things that we do later on in our process is look at lifetime value of the client. So, your example of the insurance salesperson. So if they have a client who purchases home insurance from them, well, that client may well own a car. That client may well travel. That client may well, do sports and need special insurance for sports equipment. They may well, they may run a business and need business insurance and so on. So all of a sudden they've got the one client spending the $5,000 instead of just $1,000.
Right. And that's for that number, I mean, those numbers might be really small for some of the audience that's listening today. It might be really big, but just for nice round numbers, I gave that example. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Looking at the lifetime value of that client and what they're bringing to the table, are they somebody that's going to not only utilize your service as a service provider, but can they refer you as well? Maybe that same client lives in a luxury subdivision, and all of those people have homes and cars and everything else. So looking at those aspects too and really helping them see a bigger picture.
Great. Well, talk to us then some more about the referral process you mentioned earlier. So how can you find people that will help you get in front of your ideal clients?
Well, a lot of people are going to think that I'm going to talk about networking. And I do. I go into a spiel about, building your network and understanding that, your bottom line depends on the relationships that you're forming. But, just despite the fact that I used to work for a chamber for many years prior to me launching my company, I'm going to go against that advice and say that, going to random networking events to find referral partners is not necessarily our best bet in today's age. We can, however, utilize other things like LinkedIn, especially for people that don't have a large network at this point. And you don't necessarily need a large network. You don't need, I used to be of the mindset, that if you had 5,000 people in your network. No, I'm kidding. I'm exaggerating. But, you having these large networks are not necessary. It's truly about having quality. So one of the ways that we can start, especially for somebody that doesn't have a large network, they could think about, okay, well, number one, if you already know your ideal client, and then if you're already thinking about from this conversation, listeners, if you're already thinking from this conversation, I know the people that are already marketing to my client, tapping in that industry, like on a LinkedIn search bar in your immediate area, that could be a great place for you to start meeting professionals and getting to know those professionals from a place of, like what makes them tick? What are their focuses right now? Like not necessarily going in and pitching them and saying, hey, refer me all your business, but really just going into LinkedIn. That would be a start if you didn't have a network already, and start, literally having those what I call virtual, connection calls. They don't have to be things that you do in person, but they can, you already know that they're probably talking to your ideal client. So you can contact them and see how the two of you can collaborate and, not only from a client referral standpoint, but maybe, like Jürgen and I were connected because of the podcast, right? So maybe there's an opportunity like that you can actually co-collaborate on a local stage together, give a co-presentation and get in front of your other audiences. So those are just some the ways to start building that network, and of course amplifying your existing network by reaching out to other people for those introductions.
That's great advice. I think the point you made about random networking and just being hit and miss and spending a lot of time doing things that may not give results is a really good one. And at the end of the day, though, and you made this point right at the beginning when you started explaining this, was that it all comes back to building relationships.
Absolutely.
And this is something that I can't emphasize enough, because I believe that a lot of people forget about relationships in the online world. I think it's online, so it's anonymous, and you're not in front of a person, so they kind of forget that you still have to build a relationship. You still have to win trust.
Yeah, and you have to be consistent with it too. I mean, like the long gone are the days where you have a, whether you're meeting somebody like in person or whether you're having like a virtual conversation with them via phone or just, via, Messenger or inside of a social media group. You have to be consistent with that, and you got to have a way to track it. One of the things that we teach in my world is called the EPIC formula, and EPIC is actually an acronym that stands for email, phone, in-person, or currency, meaning like what value are you giving that person on the other side of that relationship. And I always encourage people as they're thinking about building these strategic partners and these alliances for their business is it's a simple tracking sheet. I mean, this formula falls into something that's very simple that they can look at and say, oh, I had a conversation, or I emailed Sally Sue, or I emailed Jurgen. I probably, and there's a date and a time where that meeting actually occurred. And, where do I have to go back and circle back with that person in order for me to stay top of mind with them? And it's not for selfish reasons either. It's really truly about what is it that you're doing? Can you add value, and are you delivering on that value? Are you making those connections? Are you doing things that are going to help them first and foremost? And of course, we want to make sure that we're helping ourselves too, but if we're building value and creating that strong relationship, all that other stuff will kind of fall into place.
That's a really good point. As you were saying that, I was thinking about one of the things that I wanted to explore some more, and that was standing out from the crowd in a noisy marketplace, particularly online. And I think what you just outlined is definitely one way to do that. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said it earlier, the value of what you're bringing to the table, the bottom line, when you're thinking about dollars and cents as it relates to your business, it all hinges on your quality of your network. So if you're going out there and you're building a quality team of professionals that you're vetting, but you're also being of service to, that's the differentiator, right? Like I have people coming up to me all the time because I built that reputation in town prior to me launching my business. I was the go-to resource. I mean, unfortunately, I had the platform of a large regional chamber of commerce. I realize a lot of people don't have that, don't have that luxury. But you know what? I mean, like I did that because, again, it made more sense for me to position myself as the go-to resource. And I would literally always ask this one simple question: how can I help you in your areas of focus? How can I help you in your areas of focus? And I would always end every conversation with that, like that. And so when I'd ask that question, it would either catch them off guard. So that would be a way to stand out, number one, or they would actually follow through and say, I need help with XYZ. And then I would do whatever I needed to do to make it happen. I mean, within reason, of course. If it was something illegal, that was a totally different story. But if it was, and I'm joking about that, of course, but yeah, I mean, if it truly, you figure out a way to, if I couldn't provide that, connection or that resource, I at least knew somebody in my network that could. And that was the vantage point that I was leaning on. And that's when I encourage other people to think about, what is the value of your network and how are you helping other people with that network?
And of course, what you said there, the more people in your network, the more you can help individuals, because if it's something that is outside of your own area of expertise, you say, well, I've got somebody in my network that knows all about that, and that could help you.
Yeah, perfect case and example. Today, I was just on the phone with a woman, and she is she's doing some amazing things with her business, but she's growing her team. And she mentioned that she needed to, do background checks. And so I just asked her nonchalantly. I said, "Do you have somebody that does that?" And she says, "Well, I do, but that person fell through." And she goes into the song and dance, and I says, "Just wait there. I've got 2 resources for you. I'll be more than happy to do an email introduction, and you can figure out from there." She was like searching online, like people don't want to spend their time online trying to hunt down a resource. So if you're in conversation with somebody and you're asking these poignant questions and asking what their pain points are, what their biggest area of focus is, they're going to uncover for you what you need to do. And that might be that they need your service, and then you can offer that. But most of the time it's just a matter of saying, "Oh, I have a connection for you. Let me just take a few moments to make that introduction." And it saves people time that way too. And then of course you are being more valuable, because you're not just selling them something, you're being of service.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. And of course it comes back to really understanding your clients and your ideal client. And from what you've said there, being of service by connecting them with other people who can help in specific areas of expertise, if that's outside yours, that just builds that and strengthens that relationship. And when they need things that are in your area of expertise, then you're probably their go-to person, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now we've talked a little bit about clever networking and connecting with people who can help you grow. Do you have a specific process that you take your clients through?
Well, that's a general question. How much time do we have in this interview, Jürgen? No, I'm kidding. Well, so if you want to give me, I'd love to dive deeper into that. What would be your specific direction you'd want me to dive into?
Well, maybe just an overview of some of the key steps involved that people can have a think about, and then they can definitely explore that some more outside the interview. Yeah.
Well, we talked about, we've already talked about determining who's already talking to your ideal client. And I did touch on something called the EPIC formula that I teach, where it's really this device that really helps. And it's a simple tool. It's one of these things that I created on an Excel spreadsheet. It wasn't something that would required me to form a new app or anything complicated. But it was this thing that I created because I wanted to keep track of who I was reaching out to, who I was engaging with, because it's crazy because, as we're doing a lot of different things, we're wearing a lot of different hats, we realize that it is important to stay top of mind with people. And I just didn't have a real swell way to keep myself organized. And so an EPIC formula, that really started out to be something that was selfishly a tool that I was using to keep me organized. And then when I started really teaching on a deeper level about how, we can find people that are talking to our ideal clients, but then how do we track our results? How do we track those conversations and track who we're helping and how we're helping them, and who's really truly helping us, because at the end of the day, if we're helping all these people, but we're not doing anything to help ourselves, that's not good either. So the EPIC tool became one of those things to really help with reaching out to people confidently, right? You know that you're reaching out to somebody with a purpose, and that engagement, keeping them engaged in things that you're doing as a sales professional or service provider. Like what are the things that you're doing to grow your business? Those are things that you can stay engaged with. Another way that we could certainly talk about today, and this is one of the things that I dive deeper on in my process, is helping people amplify their reach. So, a lot of the service providers that we work with are wanting to get on other podcasts, wanting to speak on stages, wanting to partner with other service providers that are in line with their product or service. So how do we help them do that? And those are some of the things that we can help them with as well. And then obviously from a productivity standpoint, where are we finding the time on our crazy busy schedules to make all that stuff happen? Because if you're not carving out the time, at the end of the day, if you're not carving out at the time to work on your business, then you're going to constantly be working in it. And I know for a lot of your listeners, they want to be working on their business. They don't necessarily want to be in it all the time. They want that time freedom. They want to explore other opportunities, but still have a thriving business. So that's at a high level view. Those are kind of the 5 points that we really dive deep in the client process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty comprehensive, and I'm interested because I know that we haven't yet talked about conversion, and you have that in one of your statements about what you do. So I'm kind of interested in exploring that, but I wanted to dig a little bit more into amplifying your reach, that aspect of it. And you talked about getting people on podcasts and speaking, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think, again, it ties back to point number 1, right, which is what is such a near and dear on your heart, knowing like your ideal client, knowing what it is what pain point you're solving for them. If you know based on your service deliverable, right? So whatever you're doing as a service to our listeners today, thinking about the 3 to 5 pain points that you solve for your ideal client. If you have those down pat, if you know, like, okay, there's 3 to 5 buzzwords or pain points, if you will, that I know I can speak to. And then if you could look at your current book of business, so let's just say your current clients, if you consistently see a theme, if you're consistently seeing that you're getting asked to step up and solve XYZ problem, well, then chances are, if you spoke about that on a podcast in front of your local chamber of commerce or a national stage, it doesn't matter. But if you spoke about how to alleviate that pain in front of your in front of potential ideal audience members, your reach and your reputation for being able to solve that pain will start going across in a number of ways, so as I'm talking on this podcast today, I'm sure, Jürgen, once you share this, that'll be something that I share with my people, right, with my audience. And statistically, there's always somebody out in the ethers of listening to podcasts that are going to be like, this chick's onto something. I want to invite her onto my show. So it's those things. But I had to have, those 3 to 5 pain points. What am I solving? What problem am I helping people with? And everything else kind of comes from that. So if you're wanting to write content for blogs, and this is, getting really, really high level, but if you're wanting to write content for blogs, if you're wanting to know what to do in your social media post, if you're wanting to know how to, to pitch yourself for, XYZ podcast or XYZ, national stage opportunity, because you already have those 3 to 5 points, written out, and you know how you can solve it, and you're teaching it, and you're speaking that language, it becomes really easy for people to say, you know what, I want to book that person, or I want to invite that person to come speak in front of my audience, regardless if it's a platform or in stage, in person kind of a thing. But I've gotten guest columnist opportunities that way too, because people want to, dive into that topic, and they know me for that now. So, but it took me a lot of time to get to that level, because I did those little things up front. I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I was, talking and having conversations with people like at the grassroots level, before I thought about amplifying my reach. So I had all of that worked out before I took it to the big to the big podcast and the big stages. So does that help?
Yeah, definitely. So, there's a lot of groundwork to be done here. It definitely comes back to understanding the ideal client and understanding those 3 to 5 pain points that you're uniquely talented or qualified to solve for the clients. And that's your pitch, if you like, to the audience in the first instance, who are the ones that have the platform that you can then potentially speak at.
Yeah, and then, not only that, but it comes up in general conversations too. If you're out and about, perfect case and example, I was literally in Los Angeles. This was a couple years back, but my husband and we were out there for a couple meetings, and we stopped at a Trader Joe's, and I went in the lines, are there Trader Joe's in your neck of the woods, Jürgen? I mean,
we've got something similar here. Yeah, I know what it is because from my visits to San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is the lines were long, like they always are at Trader Joe's, and I just got chatting up with this woman right behind me in line because, what else were we going to do, right? But to be friends. And come to find out, she is a consultant, serves a similar clientele. She does something entirely different than I do. And, we became like this, we instantly connected and hit it off in the grocery store of all places, right? And exchanged business cards. But it was because I already knew my 3 to 5, when we got to that point, I didn't roll that out the first 30 seconds of me talking to her. It was a gradual conversation. But, when I found out what she did, then it was easy for me to say, oh, that's fun that you do that because I actually help people do this. And then I was able to talk about that and we were able to strike up, some really amazing wins for our clients respectively moving forward. So it doesn't just matter the groundwork. It's so important because again, those innocent conversations, like those encounters at the grocery store, those encounters, random encounters, that information will serve you and it'll come up at the right opportunity and potentially mean a major opportunity for you in the future, like it did with me and my friend Diane. So
that's a really good example. I think I'm going to have to pay more attention when I go to Trader's Joe.
That's right.
In the future, normally I kind of try to get out of it and I let my wife do it.
Well, and what's so funny is, this is actually, I'm glad that we're talking about this right now. One of the other things that we talked about differentiating ourselves, and one of the things that is my differentiator is my scarf. Visually is my scarf. I always have a scarf on. And so people, right now it feels like it's 110 in Florida right now. It's not, but it's very hot. I still have my scarf on. So it's like a conversation piece. So those of you that are a little more introverted, if you've got a stylist, a stylistic thing that visually attracts people to make a comment about what that shirt or that scarf or that handbag or those shoes, whatever it is, guys and women, both, I've seen this work in both sexes. It's not just a woman thing. It's not just a man thing, but that could be a great way for you to engage in a conversation that isn't so intimidating, as asking a question. Somebody can compliment you or you can compliment them on a visual aspect. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. That's great advice, actually. And I remember, my son is, he has this very fashionable big moustache and he takes great pride in it and takes great care of it. And he also dresses very dapper. And I remember walking in San Francisco down the streets with him where lots of people were there. And probably, 10 to 20% of people would stop and comment and say, nice hat or nice moustache. And then all of a sudden you'd strike up a conversation with a perfect stranger. So that's great advice. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, this has been fascinating. I sort of want to circle back a little bit with the idea of standing out from the crowd. So in terms of making a pitch to people who can help connect you with your ideal audience, a lot of those people probably get hundreds of requests to appear on podcasts, for example, or speak or have a meeting, whatever it might be. How can you position yourself that you stand out from all the other stuff they get?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Jurgen. One of the things that I instinctively kind of caught on to, and I don't want to say that it was my idea. I actually do a lot of, I go to a lot of conferences. I'm pretty observant about what other speakers and what other thought leaders in my space and beyond are doing. So, I take copious notes and I learn from the greatest, right? So a lot of these things are just, I'm positioning them as my thoughts, but a lot of the things that we're talking about today are pieces that I'm pulling from different resources. I say that because, when I find a resource or I find a book or I find, I've listened to a great speaker on stage or I, listen to a podcast interview. There's all these ways that I can engage with them. And, obviously social media today has given us this opportunity to engage with some people that even 10 years ago we couldn't have a conversation with, unless we really knew somebody. And today, a Twitter or LinkedIn platform really gives us that freedom and flexibility to retweet or to share their content. So I think first and foremost, especially if our listeners today are wanting to stand out in front of influencers or even decision makers, is to be observant of what it is that they need, what it is that they need support with. Now, it might not be obvious, because they're not telling you, because you don't have that meeting yet, you don't know them yet. But, those influencers you're wanting to get in front of, follow them on social media. Find out what's going on in the world. Perfect case and example. I actually was at a luncheon event in Tampa. It was a big initiative that was happening in the Tampa Bay area, 2 hours away from me. And one of the breakout session speakers, I wanted to run over to her. She was really compelling. I wanted to have a chance to introduce myself. It didn't happen because she had a lot of other people that wanting to do the same thing. Well, I already followed her on social media prior to me going to this conference, right? So I already had some talking points. Like I was like, oh, she has a brand new son. So that was things that I already knew about her that I could have some of these talking points with her if I had the opportunity to speak with her. But I didn't have a chance to speak with her. So she had actually made a comment about the event on social media. And so I just wrote in the comment section, hey, you know what? I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to meet. I wanted to come over and introduce myself. Perhaps next time, it kept it really light, kept it really informal. Well, today, that was about 60 days ago. I mean, today she's somebody we still haven't physically met yet, but there's actually another thing that she's going to be speaking at. And I told her that I would actually be there. And she's like, I'm going to be on the lookout for you, because we had this online engagement. It was consistent. It wasn't something that I just randomly let go of. I actually made it a point to, connect with her in a different way. So I think these, the influencers, that are really approachable. I mean, most of the influencers that we're looking at, or the thought leaders that we're looking at, are going to position them. They do want to make time for you. They don't have a lot of time for you necessarily, but they do want to make time for you. So make it easy for them. Don't make it super hard. Position yourself first. Extend the olive branch first. Figure out a way to engage in the conversation and know what they're all about before, they come to you. And that's that, I hope that story was an articulate way to explain, it's simple. You just figure out what it is that they need and how you can connect with them and meet them at their level and connect with them at that point.
Yeah, that's good advice. It comes back a little bit to consistency that you talked about earlier, and having that ongoing communication, and also building the relationship online by having that consistent level of communication in some form. And I like the way, because a lot of people will look at influencers and say, well, I need to talk to that person because they can help me do something. But taking the approach of, well, what do they need? How can I help them? Is probably a really good way to start any relationship.
Yeah. And, nobody wants to be around a bunch of ask holes. My mentor, Ken Courtwright, says all the time, don't be an asshole. Make sure that you're positioning yourself from a place of service. When you're trying to get in front of a decision maker or an influencer, they're going to be more receptive, and don't have an agenda either. I mean, I know we all do because we're in business and we're trying to, I get that, but, don't keep scores. I guess what I'm getting at, so if you're going to go into that, don't ask for something like, don't ask for the sale up front. Don't ask for, hey, can I get on your show? I mean, no, they're not going to have time for that. But if you can show that you're, trying to figure out where they're at, how you can serve them, that's ultimately going to serve you in the long run. I've seen it pay off. I mean, I could give you tons of examples, but I know we'll run out of time. But there's tons of ways that's helped me tremendously. It's a long game. It's not a short-term thing, but it definitely does pay off in the long run if you can have that mindset.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who said this first. I wrote it in one of my blogs, and so I'm claiming it as my own. But I said this, if you're online, there's no easy button.
Right.
Yeah.
And offline, there's no offline easy button.
Yeah, no, there isn't. But yeah. But offline, there might be other expressions to use for that metaphor.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, for sure.
All right. This has been absolutely fascinating, Erica. I could dig some more into all these points, but I am respectful of your time. So I think it's a good time to move on to the Buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience. And they're primarily innovators and leaders in their field with some tips from your experience. So I'm going to ask a series of 5 questions. Hopefully you'll give us some really insightful answers that will inspire our audience today to go and do something awesome.
Awesome. I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, great. So what's the number one thing you think anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Get out of your own way. Actually, Jeff Hoffman, the co-founder of Priceline, I had some opportunity to connect with him, and he uses, in fact, the whole concept of Priceline came because he read an article about food spoilage. So if it's so funny, if we can get out of our own way, if we can get outside of our own industry and learn and observe and info sponge is his term, that's the way we can innovate. We get out of our own way.
Yeah, I love it. My business coach says, get over yourself. That's another way of saying that, yeah. Because sometimes we kind of put barriers in our way that we think will make us look better or whatever it might be. So it's all about us, whereas your advice is pretty well just get out of the way and be open to learning and observing.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Okay. I would say the best thing that I've done, it's going to sound maybe a little silly, but I literally, my first 45 minutes of my day, I've got my notebook, I've got my tea, and I'm outside on my lanai, and I'm literally processing everything that I processed the night before. You know, like I'm downloading those new ideas, right? Because that innovation, you know, it strikes you when your brain's refreshed. And so I take that time in the morning. I mean, that's something I've faithfully done for the last 4.5 years. And it's been a major game changer. A lot of the things, a lot of the relationships, the direction of my company has come from those silent meetings with my brain and my notebook. So
that's great advice. And there's a few of our guests we've had that are in the, what would you say, neuroscience space that have said, you know, that is the time when your brain, just after waking up, when your brain is ready and is kind of processing all these new ideas at a subconscious level. So to sit down and write them down is really good. I find that I usually go for a bike ride every morning. And most of the time it's with other people, so it's kind of a social thing. We have conversations. But when I'm on my own on that, I find that that's the time when the brain is churning out new ideas like crazy, because I'm kind of, the brain's in neutral, I'm in my own little world, and so it's the same type of thing.
Yeah, running does the same thing. I just finished my first marathon back in May. So
congratulations.
so running definitely does that as well, because you're running for, I trained for over 420 miles, I think it was. So I had a lot of time to think.
Yeah. Great. All right. So sit down and write every morning, or train for a marathon.
Or go for a bike ride.
Yeah. Now, what's your favorite tool or system for improving your productivity and allowing you to be more innovative?
Oh, you know, I have a number of tools that I absolutely love. One of the things that I love right now is something called rev.com. And I actually record a lot of things, and I travel quite a bit. So what I do is I'll record all these thoughts, and then have Rev transcribe them. So I'm not sitting in front of my computer saying, did I really mean that? And second guessing my thoughts. And then, you know, I can actually see in black and white what my random talking, you know, what my random thoughts are how they're talked out. And usually I can take a step back at those transcriptions and figure out from there, you know, like, well, what is it that I've got to do next? You know, what are, you know, some amazing, one of my recent programs actually came from that exercise of me just talking it out randomly. having it transcribed. I think it was a 3-hour transcription, but we did it, and I was able to take a step back and piece it together instead of me hacking it away. So in terms of my productivity, talking it out and then getting it transcribed through a service like rev.com is one of my ways that I love to innovate.
And that's a great tool. I've used it in the past when we did full transcripts of our podcast, and there are other transcription tools out there. But the idea of dictating your thoughts and transcribing, that's a really good one. And it's something you can do while you're training for a marathon too. So
absolutely,
because you can't stop and write in the notebook. All right,
Absolutely.
What's the best way to keep a project or a client on track?
Well, accountability would be the number one. But if we were going to think about, accountability and dissect that a little further, this whole aspect of constantly having conversations around it. I think that, the biggest thing that plagues business owners, service providers, entrepreneurs in general is that the ideas come and they go. Conversations come and they go. But if they're constantly front and center, my husband and I, for instance, we have in our living room, I should take a picture for the show notes so our audience could really see what's going down. But in my living room, everybody that walks through my front door, they see 2 gigantic whiteboards and they see my annual calendar. And it's that conversation piece. We actually, my husband and I are constantly having conversations, and we go to the whiteboard and we dissect those ideas. But, the things escape us if they're, hidden underneath paperwork, if they're hidden under our subconscious beliefs. So if we can talk about them, keep them front and center, accountability, that takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, great advice. And having those discussions and making it visible. I've got whiteboards on my office wall here, and I love those. Yeah. In fact, they're full all the time. I keep thinking I need more whiteboards. Write some more.
And you can take pictures. That's the beautiful part about having smartphones today. Is you can just take pictures. My husband and I used to do big flip charts, and then we're spending I think $3,000 a year on flip charts. There's got to be a simpler way to do this. And so we invested in some really outstanding whiteboards, and we just take pictures of everything and chronologically keep all of our ideas and content front and center like that.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I take pictures on the phone. I've actually got a folder in my photos album on the phone that's whiteboard photos, so I can just go to the folder and review them. So it's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves? We've touched a little bit on this.
Again, we'll circle back to it. It's truly boils down to the quality of your network. If you are doing whatever you can to build quality, and I mean, forming quality relationships, being of service, identifying what other people need, asking those questions, when I ask somebody that question, what are you focusing on and how can I support you? It stops people dead in their tracks. Sometimes they don't even know how to answer that question. They have to circle back with me, which gives me another opportunity to stay in front of them, right? So, if you could just be very simple with that question, what is your current area of focus and how can I support you? That alone will differentiate you from every other service provider out there who's just trying to, quote unquote, grab the business.
Yeah, great advice. Really have that service mentality in terms of delivering some value to your network.
Yeah. And again, I understand everybody listening to the show today, it's not to be a slave to service, right? No. I mean, we want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves first. But again, if you can go in with the mindset that I'm going to help other people, your needs are going to get taken care of. Like I said, I've seen it play out so much, and I'm a personal testament to how that the power of being of service has really helped grow my business and grow other people's businesses as well.
All right. Thanks for getting us through the buzz, Erica. Now, what's the future for you and for your business?
Yeah, well, we've got quite a few things that are going on in the Queen of Results world. One of the things that we're working on in the next several months is something called the real way to attract clients. So we talked earlier about the EPIC formula. I'm actually expounding upon that principle, the EPIC formula, to really help people find, connect, and convert more of their ideal clients through their own strategic networks, and being able to be in a situation where they are working together as a team. It's not just training, that's one thing, but the Real Way Accelerator is what I'm calling it, is an initiative that people can actually mastermind and learn from each other and help each other in that concept. So it's teaching that service first principle, but it's also teaching people a tried and true system to help them fill their sales pipeline.
Sounds exciting.
It's pretty exciting. I'm very excited about it.
I'll look forward to seeing more about that in the future. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to any business owner that wants to be a leader in their field and a leader in innovation?
The biggest piece of advice, and I actually just said this recently to somebody today, in fact, if you're wanting to position yourself as an innovator and somebody that is a leader in your field, if you can be straightforward, and if you can, like I said, going back to that being a service point, but being straightforward, people are going to connect with that first and foremost. They're going to connect with your attitude to think about others first. And so if you can be straightforward with that approach, and and the ask will come. People will come to you and say, what can I help you with? You say that enough times, it'll come back to you, I promise. But be straightforward in your approach, that you're being a service first and you're focusing on building quality relationships. So doing that and being consistent with that is going to serve you well in the future, my friends.
All right. Great advice. Thank you. Now, this has been really great. So where can people reach out and say thank you for all that you've shared today?
Oh, thank you for that, Jürgen. So the best way to connect with me is over at thequeenofresults.com. And if you want to, I actually have a free guide for your listeners today, Jürgen. If they wanted to learn 8 more ways, we only talked about a couple today, but if they want to learn 8 more ways to really get in front of those decision makers, there's a free guide. So thequeenofresults.com/free-guide. They can find that information there.
Beautiful. And we'll have links in the show notes to those spots, the queenofresults.com and the free guide, so that people can jump in over there and download them. So awesome. Finally then, Erica, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast, and why?
Oh, well, we already talked about Jeff Hoffman, so I've got a couple of them for you. So Jeff Hoffman, the co-founder of Priceline, that guy is just a cool cat. He's doing some amazing things to not only innovate entrepreneurship, but do it on a global scale. He's not just doing that in the travel industry. He's doing that in all pockets of the globe. So he is definitely somebody that I'm really impressed with. And another gentleman by the name of Ken Courtright, I kind of alluded to him earlier. He's the one that's quoted with the ask hole theory, but but Ken is brilliant in the digital marketing space. He's a smart guy. The Ken Courtright is one of my favorites. And he would definitely be a good guest for your show as well. So I got 2 of them for you.
Great. Excellent. That's great. So Ken and Jeff, if you're listening to this, and you may well not be, but if you are, then look out for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Erica Castner.
Oh, we'll make sure they get that notice.
Yeah. We'll get an introduction from you. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights with us so generously today, Erica. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it and I've learnt a lot. Now, recently I had Ben Settle, I don't know if you know Ben, on the podcast. We haven't published that at this point, but probably definitely by the time this is published, we will have. But he said something about his aim in every interaction is to educate, entertain, and elevate. And I think you've certainly done that for me today, and I'm sure you've done that for the audience. So thanks very much for that.
You're welcome, Jürgen. Thank you again for having me on the show. You rock, my friend.
Thank you. And I wish you all the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
Yes.
Well, that was another fabulous episode with a lot of valuable advice on reaching and connecting with your ideal clients in a way that's efficient and effective. All the ideas and tips that Erica shared with us can be found at innovabiz.co/Erica Castner. That is ERICA CASTNER. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Erica Castner. You'll also find contact information for getting in touch with Erica there. Erica suggested I interview Jeff Hoffman, co-founder of Priceline, and Ken Courtright, organiser of Digital Footprint, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So Jeff and Ken, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Erica Davis. Stay connected. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you make sure you'll never miss another episode. We'd also love you to leave us a review because what you think matters. Take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic LinkedIn community at the Transformational Marketing Academy. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMAC. It's free to join. Hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.